Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're talking about the Season 3 finale of The Mandalorian, Chapter 24, The Return. And if we have time, we've got so much celebration news to break down as well, but that might be piece by piece for many weeks, so we can't promise the whole thing this week, but we'll try to get to some. My name is Chris, and making his return to the Star Wars Underworld podcast after a week at Celebration and a week recovering from Celebration, it's Mr. Dominic Jones.
Yes, hello, Rob. Hello, Kieran. Hello, Star Raptor. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here back at Star Wars Celebration London, day 13, and we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here with the reunion between Jabba's eyeballs and his tail today. Big stuff happening on the Celebration stage. Was 50% walk-ins today. No, it's good to be back. It's good to be back with you guys on the show. I'd be lying if I was saying if it was good to be back from Celebration, because I'd rather still be at Celebration. Sue me.
No offense taken.
Yeah, it was such a fun time. It was such a good time to be back in London with everybody, to be at the Excel Center, to be enjoying that experience. And I do want to give a big shout out to Rob Gower, Chris Abbott, and Kieran Duggan, who were, as I said on the final daily pod, the Chris, Ben, and Hannah of the weekend, being the co-hosts for the daily podcast, which were a lot of fun. If you haven't heard them, go back and listen. They're available on the podcast feeds and gives you sort of a day-by-day, blow-by-blow breakdown from Celebration of what was going on. We literally would get to the end of the day and start recording those. And the first day of Celebration, we started recording just outside the convention center. And the way the convention center works in London is the security there and the staff there, they clear you away from it. Like in Anaheim or Chicago, you could just stand out front all night if you wanted to. In London, they're like, no, lads, gotta keep moving. Lads, gotta keep moving. Can't stand here. Keep going, boys. Can't go. Keep going. Move away. Go down the street. And so we would move past one barricade, but there'd still be another one kind of far away. But we'd still be standing there and be recording. And then I'd start to see these security guys going around slowly talking to everybody, going, yeah, move along, come on. And I'd be like, all right, let's keep going. And so by the end of the show, we were about, I'd say half a kilometer down the street from the convention center, and really had no idea where we were. We were kind of recording from a random intersection. And then it was an experience sort of trying to figure out where
there's
we were.
Intersections there? I thought they were all roundabouts.
the roundabout. But yeah, it was great fun. So happy to be back on the show. Sad to be missing Celebration. Sad to no longer be at Celebration. But the countdown is on for Japan 2025. Going to be a good time over there, and we're gonna have a great time here talking about this Mandalorian finale. And whoo, boy, what a finale it was. I think season 3 of The Mandalorian hit its stride at the perfect moment. It was a little touch and go there for a few moments this season, but these last 2 episodes, a strong ending to season 3 and to a chapter in the Mandoverse. So looking forward to breaking that down. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, we're about 700 days away from the next Star Wars Celebration. On one hand, that's a long time, and on the other, I'm glad I have the time to prepare, because that is a long journey. It is going to be the longest journey that we've ever taken to.
I looked up I looked up how long the flight is from Toronto to
Oh.
Tokyo. I was like, oh God.
That's a killer.
Yeah.
That's a killer.
And it's like I want to go to Japan and like experience Japan and do Japan things. But I'm starting thinking like, you know what? Maybe we're gonna have multiple stops on the way and do a couple
I was thinking the
days
same
here,
thing today.
couple days there, just make it a little bit more tolerable because it's like 15, 17 hours something. I don't know. It scares me.
Yeah, one of my friends was saying from LA it was like 24, which LA I think is closer to Japan.
I was
so
gonna
don't
say,
know how
couldn't you go the other way?
Yeah, I don't know how
I was
that
gonna
works.
say,
'Cause,
like from where I am, like which way do you go? Which
Yeah,
way
you're
is
kinda
faster?
the exact opposite side of the planet.
Yeah, that like Toronto, New York, Mississippi.
Should I just start digging? Is that what I should do? If I start now, I'll get there.
start digging? Yeah, that'll work.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is the most direct way down. 100%. 100%. Okay, that other voice you hear is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Just to break it down for the record, and I did not do the math. Okay, I just have a really good app. It's exactly 1 year, 11 months, 28 days. And get out of here! I don't want to know. This stupid free app in their ad. 1 year, 11 months, 28 days, 14 hours, 21 minutes, and 36.54 seconds until Star Wars Celebration Tokyo.
So it's just around the corner.
Yeah, just
around the corner. Well, yeah, I that was sort of the, of all of the announcements at this celebration, I think safe to say that was the most surprising one. Like all the other announcements, a lot of them had been rumored or they just sort of made sense. Right? Like the movie announcements. The Charmaine Chinoy movie had been rumored for a long time. The Filoni rumors had kind of kickstarted in the weeks leading up to Celebration. And the James Mangold rumor, like I don't think that ever got out. I don't think there was ever a rumor about that. But it just sort of made sense. Like he worked with Lucasfilm on Indy. They like to work with people who they know they can work with. Hence why, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have such a role in this. And so it just sort of made sense to transition him from Indy into Star Wars. And let's not forget, if you go way, way back, dude was supposed to make a Boba Fett movie. That was the first Mangold Lucasfilm rumor way back, like in the weeks leading up to Solo, before we knew what was going to happen with Solo and the general sort of malaise of Star Wars movies for the last few years. So that all just sort of made sense. There were no new shows announced, but the trailer, made sense that we got trailers and this and that for everything. So like most of the news that came out of Celebration was just sort of stuff that was expected. But that Japan one, like, I was prepping to go to Anaheim, was prepping to go to Chicago. I'd spent the whole weekend. I'd spent the whole weekend going like, let's go back to Chicago. I want to do another Celebration Chicago because I think the McCormick Center is the best facility that we've been to. It was a really good convention center and a really good celebration stage. Because if I had one sort of criticism of Celebration London, it's that I think Celebration might have outgrown the Excel Center.
Really?
there were some days when the crowds were really difficult to navigate. And just because we had packed into that place, and the celebration stage, while bigger than Orlando, was, and noticeably bigger than Orlando, was not as big as Anaheim or Chicago. So you did have less people getting into the big panels than at previous conventions, which if you listen to the daily podcast, you heard my story about trying to get into the main hall for the showcase panel and how I wound up just sort of missing the whole thing because of it. So I feel like I felt like Chicago was the place to go back to. But everything I've heard about this convention center in Japan, it's I don't think it's in Tokyo proper, but it's like just outside Tokyo.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more like the McCormick Center than the Excel Center. So it'll feel more like Celebration Chicago. It'll be bigger, and if anything, I think the arena is supposed to be the biggest yet, which will be great.
It is.
So
big,
yeah, so this will be most likely the kickoff for the promotion for whatever the 2025 movie winds up being, which was most likely the Rey New Jedi Order, Charmin Obaid Chinoy movie. I think a lot of people are going to get to see that in person, and it'll be a really fun, exciting memorable time for everybody who makes it out over there or who already lives out over there. And it's just like, finally, you're coming back. It's been 18 years or however long it's been.
By then it will be, yeah.
Since
it's 15 years from this year. I think it was 2008. I think.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah. So yeah, it's 17 years.
So that was the convention that promoted the Clone Wars before it came out.
Yeah, if any, I remember the thing out of that one, and I wasn't following Star Wars really closely at the time, but the thing that sort of came out of it that I remember hearing about later was they showed like the first half of the Lair of Grievous episode, because that episode is directed by a Japanese director, so it was kind of
right.
That was kind of the thing, yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
but this one, I mean, this one coming up, it'll feel like, it'll feel like celebration. They'll bring everything out there just like they have for London, Anaheim, Chicago, go down the line.
Yeah. Yep. Now they just have to go to Sydney, right?
Come on,
Also
bring
joining
it
us
down under.
From the Ray, it's the Hannah side.
G'day there. Look at us all back together. Look, this is so nice.
Here.
Let's group hug this. This is great.
Star Wars
All
Underworld
back.
hosts are stronger together.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. No, this is very exciting. Oh my God, so much has happened. So much Star Wars is happening right now. I have so many questions about the finale. We got breaking news all over the place. We still got all the things to discuss from Celebration. So much is happening in Star Wars. It's great to be here. I just made it.
Yeah, there was a moment, Hannah, where you were saying you weren't going to make it tonight, and I had all sorts of jokes ready about how contractually you and I couldn't be on the same episodes anymore.
We can't afford all four of us.
But I as soon as you said I'm going to be here, I ripped them all up and threw them away.
Damn it! We've been I'm sure you had lines and lines upon lines, so that's great.
Material.
All these jokes.
Wasted. Well, actually, last week when you weren't here, I wore my Blue Jays hat because I was like, someone's got to wear it. Like when you're not here.
Thank you. Yeah, they've all the Jays or some Toronto team has always got to be represented.
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
And I'll just say 7-2 Leafs. Let's go. Okay.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Right. Football.
Yeah.
They
got a score. They got a point on the mark. Woo!
Curling. That's a curling score right there.
Yeah. Well, it's a touchdown, and it's a touchdown to 2 Rouges. If that makes sense to anybody, which it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. Hat trick from John Tavares, whose jersey I am wearing tonight, so I will claim credit for that. But yeah, all right, let's plug some things so we can talk about this finale.
All right, so make sure you check out the Star Wars Underworld Network. We have a show on this channel, Iron Cannon, that airs every Monday, and then there's a couple other channels to check out. Ooh, somebody swiped something. I don't know if you want to be revealing that.
Yeah, I'm holding up my reserved seating press thing from Celebration, which I have no problem showing it. I literally asked the guy in the Celebration stage, can I take this? And he went, oh yeah, mate, it's the last day, don't care. I was
nice. I'm just gonna throw it away.
Yeah, it's gonna be thrown away. Instead, it can hold a special place in my collection.
Yes. Where was I? Oh yeah. So in addition to Iron Cannon, which is on Mondays, we also have Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, which broadcasts on Twitch, and the Raeside, which is an additional YouTube channel that you can find linked through our other channels tab. I think that's what it's called. How to get over to that. So make sure you check that out. Over here, if you're watching for the first time, please subscribe. And if you're listening on a podcast app, please leave a review if it lets you do that. If you join us live, you can super chat with us, and you can also become a channel member over on YouTube as well to support us. And make sure that you follow us on @the SWU on all various social media sites. And then finally, make sure you join the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord, which is our community app where you can chat with us and hang out and engage in lots of fun activities like movie nights and game nights. The link to that is in the description. Ben, do you know what the next event
this week?
Fall Guys. Awesome.
All right. Love it.
Definitely check that out. All right. That's the plugs.
Great. Well, let's get into it. We are talking about the Mandalorian season 3 finale, season 3, episode 8, chapter 24, The Return, written by Jon Favreau and directed by Rick Famuyiwa. And the liberation of Mandalore is complete. It's free. Mandalore has been retaken by the Mandalorians, and Moff Gideon seemingly is no more. I'm going to leave the door open on that one, that maybe that wasn't as final as it seemed, but it's pretty final. Lots and lots to get into. We'll do that here, but we'll start how we always do. Go around the table, give some initial impressions of the episode. And Ben, start us off for the final time in season 3. Give us your initial impressions of The Return.
The final time. I'm not ready to be without you, Mandalorians. But here we are. We knew it was coming.
It took so long to come back, and now it's gone. It's gone in a flash.
It's just like we anticipated for so long. We were out without Mandalorian for so long, and now in a blink of an eye, it's gone again. And as far as I can tell, it's going to be a while until we get the next season. So, boo-hoo. But here we are with this. I would call a satisfying episode. This season has had some extreme ups and some extreme downs for me personally, and you've heard those thoughts and feelings and freakouts on this very podcast from me. But this episode, I think, really brought it all home in something, and really doubled down on everything, including a few things that I really didn't like about the season, but overall, I think brought a really satisfying conclusion. So much so that, like, a lot of ways, it felt like an ending. It felt like this could have been the series finale, and I would have bought it. I don't think it's going to be a series finale. I think Jon Favreau has been very clear about there being a season 4 or 5, and maybe even a season 10 of Mandalorian eventually. But this episode had really everything you wanted. A lot of great action, some excellent cinematography, some incredible visual effects, some great one-on-one fights, some of the best action I think we've seen. Not just like, oh, it's a bunch of Mandalorians going at it in a giant cave in midair. It's like, oh, there's some really interesting fight choreography. I think the whole gate sequence was phenomenally pulled off. One of my favorite action sequences, I think, of the entire series. And just all in all, I think some great moments and some good character stuff that I think was great too. And bringing it back and finally things, and maybe the end of Moff Gideon. I don't know. Guy seems like they told us he was arrested last time, and here he's back again. So, and as we know in Star Wars, if there's nobody, who knows? He was wearing Beskar, so and like. I don't know.
Halfway through season 4, characters will start going, did he fake his death? We don't know. Maybe he faked his death. I heard he faked his death. And,
also, there was a whole room full of clones of him. Okay, which one is even the real Gideon? Okay, we have to talk about this.
Asking the big questions. Yeah, I think Ben, I think Jon Favreau, he might secretly be working for James Cameron, and he wants to get as many seasons of Mandalorian there, so they keep pushing the Star Wars movies back so that you don't have to Disney doesn't have to make a decision between releasing a Star Wars movie and releasing an Avatar movie in December. So Fabs is just like, yeah, don't worry, Jim. I got him. I'll do another season. It'll be fine, and it'll work out. Hannah, what did you think? What did you think of The Return?
Yeah, I again, high five, Ben. We are nailing this whole like same perspective here. It's a really fun finale. The action was just, oh my God, like so good. The quality of just the fight scenes, the red kind of gate, red blast door scene of Mando. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you, Dom. Last week I was trying to explain to these two how that's like a direct Phantom Menace thing. And they're like, oh, maybe. And I'm like,
what?
Maybe it is.
What do you mean, maybe?
They're like, they're red.
I'm gone for 2 weeks and you guys lose your minds? What do you mean they're not a Phantom Menace reference?
It's
Hannah, thank
See,
God you were here.
look at them
Someone was
now.
talking some sense.
Oh man, this is great.
Debatable.
Oh god. Anyway, that scene was fantastic. The stunt work was just amazing. It wasn't just like they had a wrestle and then moved on. It was kind of unfolding in different areas, and Grogu got split up and the Praetorians and ganged up on him and came in, and then Bo came in. Like it was, I like how it wasn't just one scene, one fight. It was a really kind of complex kind of sequences of scenes. Yeah, I really enjoyed this finale. Very, very high perspective out of it, but it's done this tricky thing of like, this was really good. What happened to the rest of the season? Kind of thing. It's kind of put myself in a perspective of contrast of other episodes and things of this season. But yeah, this is the finale. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, your thoughts on the finale?
Well, I have such odd thoughts about this because for pretty much everything in it was perfect. Like I agree with Hannah and Ben. Like, you know, the pacing of the episode was great. There was a satisfying conclusion to so many storylines that have been going through this season and previous seasons. You know, the action was absolutely incredible, cinematic action. And there were just some really great individual moments in the episodes, like, you know, the moment of Grogu putting the force bubble around him and Bo and Jaren. That's right. That's his name. Jaren.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was a really incredible moment, an incredible scene. And they had that kind of 3-part battle thing that we haven't really seen fully in a show yet. It really brings it to cinematic quality, where you have the space battle, and then you have, you know, a generalized ground, although technically it was ground air battle with all the jetpacks, with the Mandalorians and the Neo Mando Trooper
Dark Trooper dudes.
And then you had the more focused one with Gideon and Din Djarin and Grogu. So I thought, you know, they could have bounced back a little bit more between 3 of them, but it was pretty balanced, and it built up the tension, and they all interwove together really well. And so that was a big, speaking of like Phantom Menace callbacks, that was a big Phantom Menace callback, and it also a callback to Return of the Jedi as well.
Yeah, it is especially a Phantom Menace callback when, after they lit up the forge at the end, Bo-Katan picked up an orb and went, peace!
Yes. So there's just so many great things about this that I really loved. And yet there's just this one thing that just confused the heck out of me.
All right.
Oh, yes. What's this thing?
Yes.
I'm so ready.
I teased this commenting on Hannah's stream. Live immediate reaction stream, but I said I would have to make people wait to listen to this podcast.
Great advertising.
Yeah, I wasn't about to give all my takes there. That's not how this works. Okay, so this is the thing. This was the series finale. This was written as the series finale. There was nothing. There was literally nothing to extend this story beyond where it is now. It's done. The story's over. All the character arcs are done. All the plot arcs are done. The only thing that's hanging is the backdoor into the Ahsoka show. They've not even made it clear that Thrawn is going to be an important part to the Mandalorian storyline at all. They've just mentioned him again, like they mentioned him last season, in a way that pretty much could just be, oh, he's out there, now he's going to be in the Ahsoka show. And it's Ahsoka's problem to deal with, and the Rebels crew's problem to deal with. But like, this could be the end. Like, if they ended the Mandalorian after this, that's it. There's really no need for anything else. So I know they're coming back with more because it's the most popular show ever, and Jon Favreau, of course, wants to do more. But like, it just seems so odd to tie things up so nicely and have it be a solid end to everything. It's very, very confusing. It's very, very confusing to me. So that's the thing that I was waiting as I was watching the episode for, like, okay, when are they going to introduce the next thing? Like, when are they going to give us that that little mention towards the end, or that one scene or line of dialogue, or like post-credit scene like they did with Book of Boba Fett? Like, when are they gonna give us that thing to say, make us like, okay, now we got to wait for season 4 to see this next thing resolved? And they didn't, and I just do not understand it. So that is the only reason why, for me, it wasn't a perfect experience viewing the episode. Just knowing out of universe that it wasn't the end, yet it felt like the end. It was just really surreal for me. Aside from that, the episode was amazing. So I don't really, I'm such in an odd position here where it's like, I didn't hate anything about the episode. It's just odd that this isn't the finale of the show, because it literally, to me, felt like the finale of the entire show.
Yeah, there was definitely a more of a note of finality to this than I was expecting. I totally agree. But I do think that it's clear that there's been something has been lingering in the background. And now the question is, how successfully can they take what's been lingering in the background and pull it into the foreground in a way that audiences are interested in and audiences come along for it? Because the Mandalorian storyline is done. Like, the Mandalore has been reclaimed. It has been unified. Bo-Katan and the Armorer and Axe Woves and Paz Vizsla's kid and all of them are gonna, rebuild society with Skinny Pete and that other guy, and they're gonna make a galaxy. They're gonna make a Mandalore that works for everybody. It's gonna be great, and it's gonna be a very powerful ally in the fight to come against Thrawn. And I think the stuff that has been lingering in the background, that has been slowly building through seasons 2 and 3, that is now going to become the focus of it, is the New Republic and what's going on in the war between the New Republic and the Remnant Empire. And if you go back and you look at what Kathleen Kennedy actually said about the Dave Filoni movie at Celebration, is it wasn't a Mandalorian movie. It was a movie about the New Republic and the Remnant Empire. That's the story going forward. And that scene between Carson Teva and Din Djarin and Din Grogu at the end is setting that up. It's setting the stage for that. Now, I think in another world, we're looking ahead at, rather than Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew, we're looking ahead at Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic. And in another world, that scene takes place between Din and a character we've been following since season 1. But that character can't be on the show anymore because the actor is a moron. So we're you get this sort of version of it that maybe doesn't feel quite as impactful, just because we haven't spent as much time with Carson, although we did get a decent amount with him this season.
Right.
So we're seeing the transition from, who are, the introduction to Din Djarin and Din Grogu through the Mandalorian storyline, and now they're moving on to the New Republic storyline. So, they call these things chapters. But and so they call that's the point I'm trying to make. I lost my train of thought for a second there, but they call these things chapters, and it feels like this is the end of book 1. This is the end of book 1 in a story, and book 2 starts in August with Ahsoka. And book 1 was Mandalorian season 1, Mandalorian season 2, Book of Boba Fett, and Mandalorian season 3. And now book 2 starts with Ahsoka. We'll continue through Skeleton Crew, Mando season 4. It will wrap up somewhere around there, and then book 3 will be whatever Dave Filoni's movie is, with maybe one season as a prologue into it. So I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So it does feel odd, and we're going to come back from season 3 into season 4 at some point next year or the year after. It'll be like, oh, this is still going on. I thought we'd wrapped everything up.
It's just very jarring. Just watching the seasons, very jarring. Maybe Din jarring.
See what you did there.
Yeah. Walked right into that one. Like the whole idea, and I've noticed this throughout the season. I've talked about it, like how this season felt like it's been setting up a lot of stuff and was moving at a slower pace than previous seasons, in regards to, and going off of like doing an entire episode where Din Djarin was only in like 5 minutes of it. Like the rest of it was off on Coruscant talking about how the Empire is infiltrating the New Republic and how the New Republic is corrupt and how all this stuff is happening, and going off to Coruscant. And this whole storyline of setting up this, I mean, what we can assume is the war between the New Republic, this coming new war that we didn't even know existed now. It's going to be taking place in this new movie. This is where we're going with this, and to have like this whole setup, even down to the second to last episode, where you have all those that Shadow Council, all those Imperials showing up, talking about how they want to bring back Thrawn, and this will be the resurgence of their military and all this kind of stuff, and to have that the ending of this episode be like, oh, they're on a homestead off on their own, and literally just Iris is out and this very cutesy little thing with Din and Grogu, and here we are, and this is it. And it is like it's very jarring and confusing, but I think it works great within the context of what you're talking about. It's just like, yeah, it's an ending of, like, you could say the Moff Gideon storyline, because I think Gideon is done. I think he should be done. I was very glad to see him go. As much as I love Giancarlo Esposito, I love that character, and I think he was underutilized a lot. Like, he only ever showed up for like the last episode of every season. I'm going into this episode, I'm like kill him. Like, and when Din's like, we have to take him out, otherwise it's going to keep going. I'm like, yes, Din. Like, the characters are self-aware of the fact that it's just going to keep going, and you have to take the guy out, and they did. And I understand the whole idea of just like, this is a serial, and sometimes villains keep coming back, but no, they got rid of him. That's great. That's the end of that story. The answer to the question, what did the Empire want? What did Gideon want with Grogu? Yes, he wanted to create clones. Things that question's been answered. Book's been closed. Now we can move on to other things. So, it's weird. It's a weird pacing. I'll admit I'm a little bewildered by how the structure of this story is going so far, but I'm here for it because it is kind of it. As much as it is a beginning, it's also could be a whole new beginning.
Yeah, I think with just on the Gideon front, I feel like we got enough development for him as a villain if this were a movie. I feel like those scenes between him and Din Djarin at the end, I was watching those going like, yeah, this feels like a confrontation between the hero of a movie and the villain of a movie. But because this is a show, I feel like there was more opportunity to build that character up that just was never quite taken. It's there a little bit in season 2, but then he's out for the first 6 episodes of this season, and his fate is just kind of left up in the air, and then he comes back as if nothing has happened. And you're like, that was the one part of last week where I was like, wait a minute, you're just gonna go, he's back, it's fine. Somehow Palpatine returned a little bit. So that part I was a little bit, I agree. It was, it's a little bit off just on the season as a whole. But yeah, I realized I haven't given my thoughts really on the episode, which is basically just to say everything that you've all said. That I think this episode was an incredible finale, and it elevates the season as a whole, which is, saying something, because the season was a little bit wonky. And I think whatever issues I have with the finale are less issues with the episode and the way things played out in it, and more that I think some things in it should have been and could have been more impactful if they had have been more emphasized throughout the season. And to me, the big weakness of this season was the unifying of the 2 Mandalorian groups. And I go back to, I think it's episode 4 of the season, when they do the rescue party to save Paz's kid. The more I look at that episode, I just look at what a wasted opportunity that was, because all this stuff with the Mandalorian groups, and there should have been so much more tension, and there should have been so much more tension leading up to this finale, so that when they worked together, it felt more impactful, it felt more earned, it felt more momentous than it did. Because there's all these scenes of them when
didn't they like fight to the death, and Grogu had to separate them?
Yeah, but by that point they had already agreed to work together. That was them debating the details.
I mean,
and that was it was like one fight between only 2 of them.
Exactly.
like-
And then Bo-Katan
Like, that's
also
all
had
we
a
needed?
fight to the death with Axe as
I
well.
mean, they gave the stink eye to each other. I mean, real
Yeah,
bad. in
There was
that
a lot of
beginning episode.
there's a lot
Like,
of stink eye, but there needed to be more than just
Fighting,
stink eye.
actual fighting twice.
Yeah, but it was between two.
Violence.
So the whole people, years of cultures distrusting one another, was fixed by two
guys-
fights of
Yes,
two fights of two
that's
people.
Mandalorian
Two scraps
culture.
over chess.
Look at the
Over
Clone
chess,
Wars.
so true,
Look
over
at the
chess.
Clone Wars with like Pre Vizsla and stuff. It's in Death Watch. Like it's you settle the issue by having your leaders
but
go
you
at
got
it.
But you
That's
got
how it goes.
But they didn't establish that in this show.
I thought that was kind of obvious when they said it's just us. Like I think that's just a normal warrior thing that people just know is going on. Like
I don't know. It this whole season it felt like there was a lot of stink eye. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of this and that.
Yeah.
But when it came down to it, everybody just kind of agreed and went along with it.
after the fight,
they had a little scrap between Paz and Axe. But that was after they had already agreed to work together. Like that needed to happen before. They needed to happen before they got to
the
Mandalore.
Bo one was before the Bo
Yeah,
and that
like don't get me started on that because that
okay.
was so
Dominic, you weren't
ridiculous.
here. You weren't here this week.
Yeah, that was
I was right. I was right on that
Oh
one.
yeah, no, I agree. You're right. I totally. I'm not taking that away from you. I just think it was stupid.
No, I just like to take the opportunity to say I've called something for once.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. You nailed it. And maybe we should let's talk a little bit about the Darksaber because with Darksaber goes down in this episode, and there's this interesting train through this season of symbols not really meaning anything about symbolism and symbols not actually so much was made about the Darksaber and how you can't rule Mandalore if you don't have the Darksaber, and the whole so much of the tension in the season 2 finale comes down to what's going to happen between Din and Bo, because she wants it, he has it, he doesn't want it, but he can't just give it to her. She has to earn it. And Gideon says in that scene, it's a great line and great performance from Giancarlo. He says, the Darksaber doesn't have power, the story does. And so really the Darksaber is just a lightsaber. It's not any different, any better, or any worse than any other lightsaber. So it's powerful, but it's not, it's not
it
some
looks
ultimate
freaking cool.
Yeah, but it's not some ultimate weapon. And so
sure, you can continue.
Yeah, let me finish this. Let me finish this thought. So he says that. And so the idea is that the Darksaber doesn't have power, the story does. So the idea is that the person who wields the Darksaber, it isn't actually the Darksaber, but it's that they've earned the right to be the leader in some way. And the Darksaber is just a symbol of that. And so if Bo is going to get the Darksaber, she has to prove her mettle as a leader. And you can say that, rescuing Din when she didn't have to proves her mettle as a leader. Fair enough. But, the moment there of Din just handing the Darksaber to her in episode 6 feels so anticlimactic and weak that even though the story of Bo, the great leader who saves people selflessly because she's good, is a nice idea, the moment I don't understand the moment of it. It doesn't play any differently as a moment versus when he was just trying to hand it to her in the previous episode. Now
you're going right back to where you started.
Yeah. Now fast forward to this episode and Gideon destroys the Darksaber. That doesn't take away Bo's right to rule. She's already proved herself over the subsequent episodes as a decent ruler, as someone who is worth following. And so again, it goes back to what Gideon was saying in the first place. The Darksaber itself doesn't matter. Who cares about it? It's a piece of metal that lights up and cuts things. But owning it is supposed to mean that this person is worthy. And Bo has shown herself as being worthy, regardless of whether or not she has the Darksaber. And it's sort of a similar realization to what the armorer realizes this season, which is you can be a Mandalorian and take your helmet off. I personally choose not to take off my helmet, but that doesn't mean that Bo-Katan, Axe-Woves, Koska Reeves, any of those characters, doesn't mean they're any less Mandalorian than me because they take off their helmets. So we've sort of seen the tearing down of symbols this season. I just think that the points weren't emphasized and underlined enough. There wasn't enough of a fine point, an exclamation point put on these things. And that moment in episode 6 sort of underscores that for me, because, you know, I think had everybody seen Bo rescued him, had the rescue been more exciting, more impactful, more all that stuff, we would have understood that this is Bo proving her mettle as a leader rather than a technicality of how we're going to pass this sword from one character to another.
So this is my point about the episode with Saxon's kid, R.I.P. dude. Vizsla's kid. Paz Vizsla, sorry. Paz Vizsla's kid. This is what my point about what that episode did is I feel like that episode was the episode where Bo proved herself as a leader. And that was the point of that episode.
Oh, I agree. Yes. I agree. That's the point of the episode. I just think they did a terrible job of showing it.
See,
that's right. You hated that episode.
I hate that episode.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
This episode,
so funny.
This finale,
that's my favorite of the season.
Oh god,
that is my favorite of the season.
I felt like they did.
You guys are all just blinded by Ahmed Vest coming in and saving the day.
Ahmed Vest. I don't care. I don't even. I forgot that was even part of that episode. It's not relevant to this conversation.
I'm just teasing.
No. Like that storyline was. That's what they were doing with that storyline, and it made sense to me as I was watching it. Though, it was coming across to me, though it was coming across to me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that's what they were. That's what they were. That's what the goal of that episode was. It to me just felt like a bunch of people going camping and then rescuing somebody.
And I think the technicality thing, the whole concept. I think the reason why it was anticlimactic when he handed her the Darksaber the second time was because at that point we basically had gotten to the point where pretty much everybody didn't care about it anyway.
Yeah,
and they were basically trying to they couldn't make a big point of it because it didn't mean anything anymore anyway. And the reason why they did it on a technicality is just to kind of like get it out of the way.
Yeah, but that's so boring.
But it's not, because they spent the whole season building up why it's not important, and so they have to stick with that.
Yeah,
like
look, that's again what I think they were doing in this finale, because Gideon smashes the sword, and then yet there's still nobody goes, well, Bo isn't worthy to lead. So obviously, like that's the point. That's the point.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the emphasis of that would have been better if they did make the Darksaber a continuous big deal throughout the show. Like every episode should have had some nod, talk, something about the Darksaber, who has it, make it a big point of how it gets passed and how Bo has it, or maybe not even give it to Bo, but the destruction of it is so symbolic. Like that is the perfect character arc for Bo, that she's so focused on this thing and that's the only way I'm a leader. But you know, she's not unconsciously, subconsciously become this great leader to bring all these groups together. And that, you know, in the end it does get destroyed, but then she realizes, everyone still sees me as a leader. I can still be a great person without this symbol. So yeah, I really don't like how what we're saying here. They just like, it wasn't touched on, it wasn't made a big deal. It was like, oh yeah, she has it now, like in a random episode.
I mean, I absolutely love the subtext at the end of the day of just Bo's story in regards to she starts the story thinking that all her problems would be solved if she had the Darksaber. She could unite Mandalore, and she doesn't have the Darksaber. She ends the story getting everything she wants, and she still does not have the Darksaber. That's important, and we talked about it, I think, and I love the fact that as much as I love the Darksaber as a concept, that needed to happen. It just being destroyed needed to happen. But it was just this whole thing of, and this goes back to season 2. This goes back to Book of Boba Fett. Just this whole thing of like, Din gets it. He can't, for some reason, he can't give it to her. and he just carries it around for 2 seasons and does almost nothing with it, just to hand it back to her again at some point. Oh, by the way, I remember you saved me that one time, so here's the Darksaber. I can just give it to you now. And it's just like like you could have done something more with it.
Because they should have done that in that episode. If that was going to be the storyline of the Darksaber, that is a technicality. Bo's going to get it because you saved me from that thing, that monster droid thing. It should have happened in that episode. It should have happened in that conversation and ended the episode with you saved me. Here it is.
Wait. The thing, though, is that's going to go contrary to the whole point of the season that doesn't mean anything. So... like, I think you can't have it both ways. You either have to have it does mean something, and the symbol does mean something, and thus it's going to be a big deal whenever it changes hands, or it doesn't mean anything, and it's not going to be a big deal. I don't think you can have it both ways.
Well, no, I think you can. I think you can do something. You can even do something where he gives it to her, and then it's kept secret. You can have it happen off screen, even, and then it's almost a reveal later on of, oh, you thought I was worthy because I didn't have the Darksaber. Proved myself worthy, and oh, by the way, I have the Darksaber too. Like I think there's ways around it, but ultimately, I do think Bo's arc is one of the stronger elements of the season as a whole. And this whole idea that, you know, she starts season 2, like you were saying, Ben, or even season 2 and season 3 of like wanting to rule Mandalore, but sort of just wanting to rule it for the sake of ruling it. And she wants the Darksaber because she thinks that just means that she's worthy. She doesn't actually understand what it means to be worthy.
She's entitled to it.
Yeah, that's what she's thinking. And over the course of this season, we see her have to actually explore what does it mean to be a Mandalorian. And she does this by going and being a part of a different sect of Mandalorians that she doesn't understand and doesn't respect. And over the course of the season comes to respect them. And so by the time so when she does get the Darksaber, she is actually worthy of it, symbols and all. And you know, in theory, I like the idea that, you know, the Darksaber was passed on in a small way, that it wasn't this sort of grandiose, you know, big rescue, big defeat. They didn't have a duel to get it, but that she won it in a small way. It was a small act of compassion, a small act of kindness, a small act of leadership that actually won her the sword. I just think the mechanics and the way they showed those mechanics on screen didn't do them any favors, and it didn't emphasize the point enough. It kind of wound up, you know, I felt like a lot this season was said instead of showed, and I feel like this whole Mandalorian conflict, there was a lot of people going, oh, these guys don't like each other. They don't like each other. They're not going to get along. And yeah, okay, they came to blows once, but the rest of the time they were just like, it's okay. Yeah, we're fine.
It's funny how this not to bring up old wounds here, but this reminds me of the Rey Palpatine situation. of I didn't like how they did it, but I do like where it ended up. I like that Rey's a Skywalker. She got to choose her own destiny, and she ends the movie with a new lightsaber. I love the fact that Bo-Katan ends this episode in front of a group of Mandalorians, all in support of her from different tribes, and she's not holding the sword. They realize they don't need it anymore. In fact, you can make the argument that at least 2 people used the Darksaber against Mandalorians. It used it to subjugate them. First one was Maul. Maul comes in, is like, okay, I'm going to take your sword and I'm going to rule you. And he does it, and he basically starts this whole mess. And then Moff Gideon again screws them over by taking the Darksaber. So it's did nothing but a bad thing for them. This is just not just Bo-Katan learning a lesson, but Mandalore as a whole learning a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I love how we're 48 minutes in and all we've spoken about is the one weapon that was like briefly used in this episode.
Yeah. It was like the biggest reveal at the end of season 1. It was just like, wait, is it the Darksaber? What?
That's true. It's true.
Well, and you know, it does. again, this whole storyline of, it was introduced as something important, and we sort of realized over the course of the season it wasn't the weapon isn't as important as the person wielding it. The weapon is just a tool. It doesn't actually mean anything. And that was sort of the, going into the season, all of the marketing for the season was, being a Mandalorian's more than just knowing how to fight. Knowing how to, it's more than just, armor. It's more than just this, it's more than just that. And that was, I think, the point of this season. I just think that point was perhaps better made in the commercials than in the show itself, which is a shame. And I this is the thing about season 3 is, when I go through each episode individually, with the exception of that one, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That was good. I think the last 2 are great. They're really, really great. I think episode 4 is a garbage fire on top of a toilet. And
man.
And then I think episodes 1, 2, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 5, and 6 are, and 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Yeah, that's right. Are varying degrees of okay to really good, and they sort of they fluctuate in there. So overall, when I think about each individual episode, I'm like, yeah, I like that. I just think the through lines weren't as strong. And I think this season tried to have more of a through line than the previous ones did. The previous ones were very episodic. This one tried to be a little bit more, one big story. And in some ways, I think they succeeded. And in other ways, I think they came up a little bit. They came up short.
I'm sure we'll get to the points of the finale, but there's just one burning question I have, just as we're talking about episodes and seasons and what's going on. Why the hell did we spend 40 minutes walking around with Dr. Pershing for his mind to get wiped, and that was never mentioned or noted or related again?
I was mentioned last week. They were like, what happened to Dr. Pershing? Gideon's like, I don't know. You tell me.
But was that what that was for?
Also, why did they tease the mythosaur at the beginning of the season and not pay it off in the last episode?
Oh my God.
Tease it again at the end.
That was yeah.
I see. I actually like that, not just because I hate creatures. But this was again, that goes to my point about, symbols not actually meaning anything. And the whole idea of Bo-Katan taming the mythosaur would be a symbolic victory, but she doesn't need that. The mythosaur, her seeing the mythosaur was enough to make her, was enough to open her eyes up to the idea that there is something to this Mandalorian lore, this Mandalorian history that she wasn't appreciating because of her upbringing and the way she just sort of treated it all as kind of a backdrop to her own pursuit of power.
How the mythosaur opened his eyes. That's the symbol there.
but again, she doesn't need to ride the mythosaur to prove her worth. And so of all the sort of symbolic misdirects of this season, that's the one that worked best for me, because just seeing it was enough to make Bo-Katan realize something she was missing.
I think, speaking about the Pershing thing, I think that they needed to show why the New Republic was not perfect. I think they needed to show what the issues were so that they could then set up why at the end there's a purpose for Din Djarin. Because if they did not show that the New Republic was kind of incompetent and being infiltrated by spies, and didn't have a human story that you cared about to kind of make you not just know it, but really feel it, then they would have had nothing. There would have been really no meaning or anything for Din Djarin to do at the end of the season. So I think him coming up to Carson Teva and being like, I want to help you guys out. You guys are spread too thin. I think that kind of meant more that we saw that stuff with the New Republic. We saw what was going on in Coruscant, and we had a very human-based story there about what happened. I think if nothing comes of that, maybe I will get more like Elia Kane in the future, and that was like set up for her. But if even nothing comes of that, I think it's just to give us lore about where the New Republic is and have a story to kind of show us what the issues are there and make us feel it viscerally because somebody got really screwed over by it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that also was a storyline that, for as much as this season was about wrapping up the Mandalore part of the Mandoverse, that felt like that was the groundwork being laid for part 2 of the Mandoverse, which is the showdown with Thrawn.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah.
And I would be disappointed on multiple levels not to see more of Elia Kane.
Here's the thing. I think when you're dealing with storyline, you're dealing with literally anything in a TV show, whether it's a character, a plot line, an episode, whatever, it kind of needs to work for all levels. If you introduce a character, it needs to work for the scene. It needs to work for the episode. It needs to work for the season. And also needs to work for the entire series. And I think overall, you can look at that episode and that sequence on the course and you say, okay, that's probably going to pay off. Elia Kane's going to come back. She's probably going to be probably a big baddie in the future. Now, especially now that she's been probably promoted to her boss is dead. But
maybe there'll be some tension going forward. Like maybe there'll be some tension between Elia Kane and Paleon and Hux and everybody, because there was tension between Gideon and those guys. And so now maybe she takes up that mantle.
I think Katie O'Brien would play really well off of those characters. But what I was saying was like that episode like works within the context of the larger Mandalorian saga, Mandoverse, whatever we're calling it. But I don't think it really worked for this season. I think for this season, it was just like, oh, here's this one-off episode. And if you're a Star Wars fan, you're like, oh, it's Coruscant. This is great. But pulling out of it, you're like, wait, what was that? You're like Hannah. You're like, what was that all about? What were we doing there? And I think it's a good question to ask because it really didn't come back, and it will come back later, but it may not even come back in this show. It could be something that pays off in Ahsoka. And
it's like that's the Book of Boba Fett all over again.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point.
It does kind of. I feel like I remember feeling that way once that episode ended. Was that episode plus those Mando episodes of Book of Boba are John and Dave and everybody working on the show saying, there's going to be parts of them that serve the larger story. That won't necessarily. It wasn't a one-off just because Din Djarin and Grogu are so popular that we shoehorn them into Book of Boba. It's part of the recipe for the storytelling of the Mandoverse, for better or for worse. Maybe that's not the way to go about it. I don't know. Maybe I want to see a little bit more, see how they do it in Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew.
Mandor. I just remembered that meme.
Yeah. But it does further the Thrawn storyline, and it sort of suggests that there's more at play here. And the other thing that it does that was important for this season was really hammer home that cloning is a part of whatever Gideon was going on, because it was always hinted at, it was always alluded to. If you knew what you were looking for,
the cloning is your obsession.
It's so good.
the patch on Pershing's shoulder, if you knew what that meant and you heard him talk about M counts and all that stuff, you could piece it together that that's what was going on. But it wasn't till that episode came along that he's like, no, I am a cloning guy, I'm a cloning doctor, that's my thing. That's
true. There is a direct link from his TED talk talking about splicing DNA to Gideon talking about splicing different pieces of himself into the clones.
Yeah, exactly.
Ben's connection. Save it for later.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, it's but again, it all this stuff does sort of underscored the point that this season maybe felt a little bit disjointed. And that I think that same criticism was applied to Book of Boba Fett. And so I think maybe what we're going to start discovering is that's a feature, not a bug. Because season 1 and season 2 were very, very focused. Whatever you may think of them, they were very focused. Even with all the cameos in season 2, it was always about furthering the Din Din and Grogu storyline, or the Jaren and Grogu storyline. I
Yes.
guess maybe that's what we're supposed to say, Chris.
Mhm.
But the
The Din and
subsequent
Din. The Din
Din
and
and
Din story.
the Din. It's like Tintin, but Din.
Oh,
No. No. I'm just pushing the no button. No.
Anyway, let's sort of focus in on the finale itself and sort of where it be.
While we're talking about that,
Yeah. I mean, but look, this the thing about finale is it does tie together
Yes,
all
no,
of
that's
the season. So I think it's fair game to talk about the season as a whole. But I do want to underscore some moments in the finale because they were pretty spectacular. So we begin with basically pick up right where we left off last week. This wasn't billed as a 2-part finale, but it was. And we see Bo and the other Mandalorians are sort of getting out of the Imperial facility, whereas Din and Grogu, they decide, no, we got something else we got to do. And something that I sensed, I didn't engage a lot with much of the discussion about these last couple episodes outside of Celebration, but something I was sensing was that people were feeling like the show was moving away from its focus on Din Djarin, that he almost wasn't the main character anymore. And I definitely see how why we were feeling that way. And so I will say it was sort of nice to see that he had such a specific mission in this finale, because he had been kind of the supporting character, which is not in and of itself a bad thing. But again, this is the guy we've been following since season 1. And so to have him and Grogu have something very specific that they are doing that is separate from the larger Mandalorian storyline, I felt like that was important and that was impactful. And right away it gets going with the fight with the Qui-Gon gates, which was just spectacular.
yes, that one.
Just so good.
Oh, that was
Just
so
just
epic.
the
It was
fact that
so
he's
well
going through it and he has to turn off each gate, and then he's entirely leveling up his weapons as he goes, and the fact just like that's why I think we love Din Djarin as a character. Like he's a guy who we've done the whole Indiana Jones comparison, but like that's him. He just keeps going. He's a tank. He can't be stopped, and even when he has no weapons, he's barreling in there and there's no stopping him, and just rolling through there. And hey, I got a baton now. I've got a gun. I've got a shield. It's just the whole choreography, how that was all set up. And just the fact that you had the previous episode. Some people noticed this, some people didn't care, but the whole, like having the gates there, and you're like, oh, that's a cool visual element, but that's not going to come back. That's not anything worth thing. And then, no, it's actually a part of this episode, which is great.
I will say, go ahead, Hannah. Go ahead.
I was going to say the thing I love about this sequence as well is the R5 involvement, and it had very much like that. The scene alone with R5 and the mouse droids were fantastic, but I felt very I said this in the stream earlier, like a New Hope, like trying to R2 shut down all the garbage compactors on the detention level, like it was that level. And when he was like, open the gate, R5, open the gate. Like just going so crazy about it. It was so good. Felt very Star Wars. That was very Star Warsy moment. I love that.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where R5 was CGI?
Someone said this. I saw a comment about this. I
There's one
think
shot.
so.
There was
ever.
one shot, and I'm just like, that doesn't look real.
I mean,
Really?
have
shot.
the droid builders
When
really
he was
gotten that
kinda
good
like-
that they
it was
can
when he-
make them fly?
It was when he was like leaning over the ledge.
Oh, maybe.
Ah.
I don't know.
Something looks weird about it.
Also,
I'm
he
always like-
didn't have to do that. Okay, that was nerve wracking. Why are you going
Was.
over the edge?
That's
You
true.
could tell they're like R2 astromechs are so top heavy, like they could just fall with just the worst.
Yeah.
Oh.
The mouse droids were fun. I was a little bit like, when he called R5, I was like, seriously? We're still doing this? We're still...
But I love that they
Bringing
just
this guy
subtly
along.
set it up, because you can barely see him in the background in the previous episode getting off the gauntlet. But
Oh,
then he
can
doesn't
you?
show
Oh,
up at
wow.
all for the rest of the show, for the rest of the episode. He was just wandering around the wastelands by himself until Din called him.
That's what droids do, I guess. I do love that Din just calls everybody buddy. He's just like, all right, buddy, I need you to do this. Buddy, come on, get in there, buddy. Come on, buddy.
I don't understand what you're saying, but you got to help me. I don't speak that.
There you go. There you go. The Gideon clones. What did we think of this reveal and this moment where they just kind of open all the tanks and they just sort of fall away?
I don't know if I really like that. Like I kind of feel like it's really a tease to like have. I mean that was a big storyline. Like the cloning storyline was huge because that's why Grogu was kidnapped. It's what Dr. Pershing was working on. There was some allusions to it in the finale last season. Like they keep for it us to find out what it is and then it not really play into the story at all is kind of odd. Like it's a very odd choice. I mean, I feel like it's a realistic choice. Like it's a realistic choice for the enemy to be working on a weapon that they never get to use because it's more of a storytelling thing to have everything get its moment. So I guess it's just they were going for some realism, but it really was some odd misdirection there that, it never really played into things more.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. We're supposed to believe that every Dark Trooper is a clone of Gideon.
I don't think so.
I didn't get that.
Because there's two moments,
or maybe they're the non-force sensitive ones. Maybe.
Yeah. That's
maybe
what
that's what it is.
Yeah, because there's two moments that make me think that. There's in the previous episode he lays out why the new Dark Troopers are so great, and he says, and they have the missing ingredient, me, which was good. And then there's a moment where one of them is talking to him, and Gideon has his helmet off, and as soon as Gideon puts his helmet on, he has like the same voice as the guy who was talking to him. And so I think that was meant to suggest that it's a bunch of Giancarlo Esposito's under those helmets. But if that's the case, we were robbed of a moment where the main Gideon is surrounded by a bunch of his clones with their helmets off.
That's my thought. Is like, why not illustrate that with like, just have Giancarlo Esposito just be clone him, like literally.
Yeah, how cool,
in the
would that
digital
have been?
sense.
Yeah, have like six some of rings all together. Like,
but then some of the clones, like some of the Dark Troopers, like they didn't sound like him. Like they seem to have some of them different voices. So I assumed not, but I mean, maybe so.
The Dark Trooper voice was very different, but as soon as he put on his helmet, it matched up, I thought.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about what?
I think I'm a clone now.
What is it? What are we talking about? The white troopers?
Yes,
right.
So they're Dark Troopers. I actually need a clarification on this. I actually don't know what
Gideon calls them the new Dark Trooper suit, assuming that these are Dark Troopers. But what I see earlier in the episode, in the last episode, I'm like, are they droids? Because Pershing in season 2 says, no, they're not humans anymore. The human element was basically the last thing that they solved. They took out of it, the equation. So that's how you end up with the giant Dark Troopers that you see in season 2, the end of season 2. So I was like, did they further this? Are they droids? Are they supposed to be droids? Because they're just standing there when you first see them. And they're not really moving. But then you see them in this episode, they actually move around. I don't know. It's very, they leave it very ambiguous.
And what a job that they just have to stand like on a little board in between the red doors all day. Like,
and if they literally
they're facing each other as well. You just got to stare.
And literally, if they just make one wrong step, they fall into a bottomless pit.
Right? Why do they have a chasm right there? Jeez.
Very Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like that's like on the Death Star. Those two poor guys just standing there as the giant.
No railings allowed. There's no railings allowed in Star Wars.
The planet-killing laser goes by, and not a railing is in sight.
No railings allowed.
As they said in Family Guy, they're worried we'll be leaning.
Yep.
And
there's railings that lean. Yeah.
Can't have that. Oh man. What did we think of the final showdown between Din and Moff Gideon?
It was amazing. That was an amazing action sequence. I thought the whole thing was great, and the individual parts of it was great, and and there's just amazing fighting choreography throughout that whole thing. Like, it was
Yes,
absolutely
yeah.
incredible.
I was surprised that Grogu. Needed help saving. I thought he was just going to murder all those Praetorians himself. I thought Janae was going to go in there. He's just going to be throwing them around the room, and he didn't.
One of my favorite things is I don't know if you guys watched the episode with captions on, but I do, and in the scene where it's just Grogu with the Praetorians and he's running around on the rafters, and it's while he's jumping, it comes up in the captions in brackets like Grogu laughter. And he's laughing. It's when he's like running, he's just doing little jumps and they're swinging at him, and it just goes.
He looked like he was having fun. He's just like, you're not gonna get me.
Yeah. I was like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. One thing they nailed on the show is epic entrances by Praetorian guards. Both this week and last week.
Well done.
They both had just tremendous entrances. I will say, though, the fight with the Praetorian guards, we've already seen the best one. And so all the other ones, as good as they may be, pale in comparison to The Last Jedi. And so the fight, Din taking on the Praetorian guards, just like Paz taking on the Praetorian guards last week, was good. It was good. I liked it a lot. But the whole time I'm going like, it's not as good as the time Rey and Kylo fought him.
At the very least, they're not like paring down the Praetorians as they have done with other troopers. Cough, death troopers, cough, commandos. In regards to when these things show up, they're going to be hard to kill. You can't just shoot them. Like you can't just stab them. Like they're going to almost kill you before you kill them.
Yeah, yeah, and they look so cool. Like when that poster came out last week with them on it, I was like, oh. This is amazing. This is terrific.
I like to think they're all related. I like to think those three are triplets or something. Like they're all siblings.
They take off their helmets and let people are like, oh, you guys are clones. They're like, no, we're just triplets. We're just triplets.
Oh, that'd be such a good fake out. That's great.
Yeah. And of course we have the aerial action sequences between the Mandalorians and the commandos.
Oh yeah, Siege of Mandalore 2.0. Amazing.
Yes, seriously.
I love the commitment to, okay, you have a bunch of characters with jetpacks. You could just as easily do this. They're just running on a platform or they're running on the surface of the planet, and everyone will be happy that, oh, it's just Bo-Katan running around with the Darksaber and cutting people in half. That'll be great. But the commitment to, we're going to freaking CGI and wire up everyone and do this properly in a giant cave. Not just in the sky, but in a cave. Brilliant. Just amazing.
Yeah. I love that the armorer is committed to just using her hammers.
Oh my god.
In the fight.
Right?
Man, she does some like straight up, like she goes, they go, whoa, bam. Like there's some people that they lost their head.
Yeah.
It is good stuff. Actually, before the fight sequence, a really sort of nice and one of the few kind of quiet moments in the finale, when they go to the garden. I really loved that scene. That was
it was nice.
But I think it's
I
nice
would have lived there.
Yeah, nice to illustrate. They almost quoted Jurassic Park there. It's like, oh, life finds a way. He almost says it. But like, just I think the idea of just illustrating that thing of like, yeah, the planet is coming back. It's almost like it's like the fact that there hasn't been anyone on the planet in a while it's just like the whole idea of like, yeah, if humans disappeared off the face of the earth right now, the planet would be a lot better off because we ruin it. So I like the idea, like, yeah, there's stuff growing on the planet now. I like it can sustain life. They don't need to build back the giant biodomes.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Well, yeah, and again, just on the sort of symbolism point of all this is, the Mandalore's future doesn't have to be defined by its past. There is hope for it. Even though they've been at war for forever and nearly wiped out, this little bit of life has persisted. It's found a way, Ben. And now the what's left of the Mandalorians, the people, can do the same.
Wait, why did you single Ben out for that moment?
Because of the Jurassic Park thing.
All right.
You really
Just
should have. Okay, they missed out
Well-
on a great cameo here. It really should have been just
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum just taking off his helmet and goes like, life finds a way.
And then puts it back on, and flies away. Just-
Well, you know what this scene had reminded me of? I don't. Is it maybe number 4? Maybe number 4 or 5 of Ice Age. I don't know.
I think I
if
got
you
that
are
far.
Familiar
that's
with those movies.
too deep into that franchise.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
think Alan was first. Too. I just remember an
But it was-
acorn.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was the dinosaur one. There's dinosaurs.
Don't they
and
all
then-
have dinosaurs?
Wait a minute, it's the Ice Age.
No, but that's that's what I'm referencing. There's one that's like Age of Dinosaurs where they go underground and it's all green and lush and amazing.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And there's like dinosaurs living underground. Actually, now that I say that aloud, that's a really weird story.
Underground dinosaurs. Wait, is this the conspiracy theory iceberg? There are dinosaurs
They are
underground.
teaching kids such incorrect history. Oh my god.
Yeah, let's
But,
not get into that.
Good scene. Good scene.
But yeah, and I mean, Mandalore, there is
Wow,
dinosaurs under the ground.
we
like
get so
literally.
lost when Dom is gone. Like, what's the next point?
I
Oh,
do
man.
like that. Like they had it. Like with talking about the mythosaur, like they had a chance
Mhm.
to like, oh, let's have a giant beast burst out of the surface of the planet, and like, but no, it's not the mythosaur.
Oh man, I'm still so baffled by that. Like that was such a massive moment. Like, oh my god, the ship's gonna like the ship explodes. I was
Not
going
to jump
underground
too
to
far
where it was
ahead, but-
from.
But like, does this mean that Grogu is like in like 500 years is going to be like the Mandalore because he can communicate, he
Yes.
can like talk to.
Yes,
the
they
mythosaur.
absolutely are setting that up because he becomes a Mandalorian in this episode. So now he can become the Mandalore. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I kind of agree with what we were talking about earlier about how this felt like almost a series finale, and then this is setting up to go elsewhere with parts of this story that I can definitely see that happening like later on. Maybe that's if we see it happen in the Rey movie. Rey heads over to Grogu to talk out some things, and Grogu's like head of Mandalore, and by that point, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely
Because he's on a path, like he's chosen to become a Mandalorian, and now he just cements his role as a Mandalorian by becoming a Mandalorian apprentice. So, like, not to say, I would hope if he went to Rey in 100 years and went, okay, I want to be a Jedi, she would train him.
wait a minute,
But-
how old is Rey gonna be in 100 years?
Actually, be them less than that, like 50 years.
Yeah.
like she'd have her, she'd
About
have
to
her,
say,
she'd have her
that's-
school open by then.
That's episode 20.
From now
Yeah.
to Rey movie is 45 years, I believe.
That
Yes.
sounds about right. Wouldn't Rey be being born round about this time? Would she be like 5
Yes.
something?
Yes.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, so she's gonna be
'cause
like
she-
35 in the movie. or
She's
so.
only like she's only like 20s.
yeah, she's-
when
30
in
it's
Rey.
okay, it's 30 years between Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi. She's 19
Yep.
in Force
Here we go.
Awakens.
Yep.
So she hasn't even been born yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
here we go.
still a little
Yeah,
ways
so-
away from Rey. Well,
Kylo's been born yet. He's like
Right.
5, I guess.
So the Force has not awakened yet.
Force is still Force is
That's
still
the
snoozing.
new
Snooze it.
new
like the
BBY.
mythosaur. That's like the mythosaur.
Is
It's
it,
still
is it
having its
before
nap.
or after the Force Awakening?
Yeah.
Got a few more
BBF
years before we can get that baby Ray
BBFA?
cameo.
Yeah,
Before is that what you said before? Chris?
before
B-
TFA.
It could just be
TFA.
Jesus.
Before
It
the
could
Force
just be-
Awakens. TFA.
It could just be BTA before the awakening. BTTA.
Yeah, that works too.
Bata.
Before the
Bata.
Awakening, and then
Bata.
ATA after
Isn't
the
that the
Awakening.
32,
planet-
baby. 32,
Isn't that the
baby.
planet where Galaxy's Edge is?
Yeah, yeah. Bata.
Bata.
Gotta go down to Bata. Get some Mantel mix.
Black Spur Outpost.
Gotta go see Dak Ander.
Outpost, huh? Okay.
The Outpost.
Sure.
Gotta go to the outpost. It's
since-
like I want a Scandinavian accent in Star Wars. Oh my god.
Well, there almost was an Icelandic one, but
Well,
Yeah.
that didn't happen.
mm.
What do you mean?
Like-
Yeah. How do you all know what he's talking about? What?
They
What
talk about it in
accent?
Celebration.
This story was told like 5 times on the Celebration stream. It somehow.
Yeah,
They dug up the old Ahsoka was supposed to be Icelandic story.
I haven't
Again,
ever heard this in my life.
Okay.
What are you
Oh wow.
talking
Okay.
about?
So this is the story. You're probably the only one who doesn't know about this. We're
Well,
gonna fix that.
I mean, to be fair,
Roasted.
like you said, this story did seem to be ubiquitous at Celebration, so it's nice to know it's ubiquitous on the stream too. But if you didn't watch the stream, like
But
the
I
story,
watched like most of every stream of
You must
Celebration.
have missed
But
that
not all
part.
of it.
Good
Anyway,
God.
okay. This is the
all right,
point.
all
This
right,
is the
all right.
point.
She's
The
Scandinavian?
original casting for Ahsoka was that she was supposed to speak with an Icelandic accent. Ashley Eckstein hired a coach to teach her how to speak with an Icelandic accent. And then she went in to audition for Ahsoka and she started speaking the Ahsoka lines in an Icelandic accent. And Dave Filoni said, "That's great, but can you make it more Icelandic?" And she, of course, didn't know how to make it more Icelandic because she'd already had this coach work with her. So she then gets called back and they tell her, like, you have the part. And she's like, okay. And then she starts speaking in the Icelandic accent and they're like, no, we just want your normal voice. We don't care about the Icelandic accent. We just decided we don't want to do that anymore. And so at some point, somebody just decided that was dumb. And
I don't
it's
even
just
know what
Ashley
Icelandic
slightly
accent
pitched up.
is.
yeah.
Wow.
I couldn't place one if someone from Reykjavik, started talking in front of me, I'd have no idea. But
Of Mice and Men, just start thinking of Mice and Men. It's a band.
Yeah, well, we will have Danish accent very prominently in the Ahsoka series with Lars Mikkelsen.
I love
I think-
listening to.
I think you mean Mars Lickelson. I accidentally said that on my stream yesterday.
Mick Madelson.
I loved hearing Mars Lickerson on the Celebration live stream because he's Thrawn. Okay, I thought like, oh, he's putting on a voice. No, that guy is Thrawn. He just talks and it sounds like Thrawn.
As soon as he opened his mouth at the Ahsoka panel, I was like, oh my god,
we
gotta run.
And it's so funny because it is so close to Thrawn when he does just speak like general things about when I lived in Denmark in my small town. Like it's like I just think of Thrawn saying that. We're like Thrawn.
I really like to be
when he
in
lived
Star
in
Wars. Oh my God, it's Thrawn talking about being in Star Wars.
Oh,
the arc
so
in
good.
Copenhagen is very artistic.
I mean, those things, all those Danish towns sound like they could be, Star Wars planets. So it could just be,
sure.
That could just be outside the Lego factory.
Bata. What did we say before? Bata.
Bata.
Oh, dude.
Good stuff.
Small town of Bata by the Lego factory.
On Chisilla. That's great. What were we talking about?
Mandalorian.
Gardens.
something.
Gardens on Mandalore.
Gardens.
Life finds a way.
Somehow we got
Grogu.
yeah.
Oh, Grogu and the is he gonna be the Mandalorian because of his connection to the mythosaur?
Yeah, I mean, I love this idea of Grogu as a Mandalorian Jedi or a Jedi Mandalorian. Like I love that idea. I love that sort of conceptually, and I do hope, to bring us all the way back to whatever started this Icelandic tangent of ours. I do like the idea of Grogu being in the new Jedi Order movie. I think that would be really, really fun.
The title of the movie is Skywalker.
A Star Wars story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They better do that.
Triggered.
Just go with that. Just roll with that. So yeah. Anyway, what else? What else happened today? We talked about the action sequences. We've talked about the gardens on Mandalore. We've talked about sort of the reunification of Mandalore.
Let's talk about how smart Axe Wolves is.
Axe
Oh my God! Yes,
I think
Yes.
Star Wars fandom collectively deserves a formal apology to Axe Woves, because there were so many people, including
People are so
myself,
mean
that
to
like
him.
that Axe Woves dude. He's real sus. He's real. What if he's the spy? What if he's going up to
Oh,
space?
God.
He's gonna call in reinforcements. Like, what's he gonna do? And then that dude freaking flies to space in his own suit, like somehow has enough fuel. Like they can't, like the children of the watch, they can't fly their jetpacks like half a mile across that stupid planet. And he can fly all the way to space. and call reinforcements, and then flies back down with the stupid thing. Like the guy was the real MVP of the whole episode. Like, come on.
When he
it wasn't a suicide bomber. He actually got out of
when
the
he
thing.
told all the other Mandalorians to abandon ship, and then the door closes and he's in there in the captain's chair. I'm like, is he gonna do a holdo? Like, is he gonna go to light speed right now? Like, what is gonna happen?
Yeah. One, I love that he's then just shot the window and flew out. It's like, all right, smart move, Axe. Way to go.
I have a jetpack. I don't have to go down with a ship.
Yeah, I was worried I was hoping that they would do that, and like he was just gonna like fly out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a note about the holdo maneuver, but I can't talk about it on stream because it's too sensitive in real world.
Okay.
Just saying that to verbalize it so I don't forget.
So you're gonna tell us off stream?
Yes, I'll join our Discord if you want to ask me what it is later. I will respond on Discord.
Okay, there you go.
Not
Join the
YouTube.
Discord.
I'm
Link-
not talking about it on
What's
YouTube.
with you and like teasers? Be like, ask me at a slightly
doing
later date.
what Jon Favreau couldn't do, and
which is
tease the season 4 of the Mandalorian.
Oh God! Can I say? I was really happy there was no post-credit scene.
Oh,
Ruined my night.
Poop on you, man.
Ruined my night.
Post-credit
so
scene.
disappointed.
No,
that wasn't.
post-credit scene is Marvel's thing. Let them have it. Star
Not
Wars
anymore.
doesn't need them. Star Wars
Also,
doesn't.
what?
Need
Yeah,
them. We've had what 2 or 3? Like,
Okay,
come on. Like,
we've
had, like,
already
one.
seen
We've had
Thrawn
one.
in the
Talking
trailer.
about.
They could have shown us Thrawn again. It
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
have
we've seen him
ruined
in the
Ahsoka,
trailer.
but it wouldn't. But it would have been a great way to like end the
Also,
season.
what is this whole business about? Oh, it's a Marvel thing. Like 1,000 other movies. Like every 80s movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off has a post-credit scene. Suddenly, it's a Marvel thing.
But when Ferris Bueller did it, it was like a wow. Can you believe they did it? Like it wasn't a common thing. That movie. That's like it was a unique feature of that movie that the movie kept
But no,
playing
the
through
Marvel
credits.
movies invented
Yeah,
this
but no,
post-credit
but
scene.
Okay, but people associate it with the Marvel movies.
Well, Star Wars is trying to take that association
But
away.
They don't need it. They don't.
Okay,
need it.
I will say that Marvel's the only franchise that I will not leave the theater for until like everything stops. So
Yeah.
That is fair to say that they do it more often than everybody else. So that it's their thing, I wouldn't say, but they do it more often than anybody else. So I get the association.
I'd say it's their thing, and everybody else that does it is trying to.
Now,
copy
but here's
their
the thing:
thing.
I'm not expecting that from a Star Wars movie. Like I could say in theaters, yes, I agree. In theaters, like it would be odd if a Star Wars movie had a post-credit scene. It's not happened. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think they've established that on Disney Plus, it's possible. And I think that I really liked what they did with season 2 of The Mandalorian with the Book of Boba Fett thing at the end. Like I thought that was great, and I'm just really surprised that they didn't do that again.
That was cool, and the Andor one was cool. You know, paying off the thing.
Yeah.
With the
very
Death
important.
Star.
Yeah.
But like the Book of Boba Fett one was so lame. Like, it was
What?
Exactly.
Oh, at the end of Book of Boba Fett. Oh yeah. That was
The
like
end one,
boring.
the end
That
one.
was
Not
boring.
the one with killing Bib.
Sorry,
Not that one.
I was gonna say that was amazing, but that
the Bib one was great.
And it was cool and it was exciting because it hadn't happened before. But once they become expected and once they become like then it loses.
Even
its...
Andor did it.
Yeah, I know. But the Andor one was like was literally an Easter egg. It was like it was a little treat for those of you that want to know.
Look, I think as long as there's a reason for it, as long as there is that can make it work. Like I think in Andor, it worked because they're trying to tease something and they're trying to wink and a nod. Hey, we're confirming something. But if it just becomes like, oh, we're just gonna tease the next thing, like Marvel is absolutely you're waiting around the post-credit to find out what the next movie is gonna be about. Like that's what you're doing in this movie.
And this story, whether you like how it ended or not, they were trying to put a button on this story, on this chapter in the story. And so to have a post-credit scene, I think takes that a little bit away from,
I mean, you could easily have Thrawn just show up and go, beep, 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 that ain't all, folks. I'm coming back. Like, you know, that could have been the whole thing, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. On the post credits side of it. I mean, the idea of Din signing up to be a bounty hunter on the behalf of the New Republic. What do we think of that idea?
Good.
I don't know. I was reading the chat. Say it again.
I'll answer this by saying
somebody answer. I mean, or we could all just sit here and read the chat. That's fine. Why even bother doing a show?
I listen. I pay attention sometimes.
Why?
I can't multitask sometimes. I try.
This goes back to my problem with Guns for Hire. That episode that I gave a 1 star for the record.
What was that one?
Yeah, that was the Plaisir. That was Jack Black Plaisir 15, whatever the name of the planet episode.
Didn't I get that like
which was fine? Well, fine episode.
Yes, you did, Chris.
Yeah, that was a
gave it
great
like
episode.
9 or something.
For the record, fine episode. Last 5 minutes sucks, and it wasn't
negative
just me.
20 points.
Look, it wasn't just me having a temper tantrum of like, oh, my favorite character Din Djarin didn't get the Darksaber. It was, I'm like, this show seems to be running in place, and I could see it coming in regards to Jon Favreau doesn't want to let the story progress any, and it's like any progression that Din and Grogu and the story goes on, it's on the end of a rubber band, and it's always going to slap back to the status quo of whatever were happening. And that's basically what this ending was. Even though I like this ending, and maybe I've given a few weeks to kind of like accept the fact that this show is not going to be what I thought it was going to be, but it is a tiny bit disappointing to see it like basically come back and like, okay, yeah, Din's gonna be a bounty hunter again, and he's not taking his helmet off, and he's all this, and yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, but also like it's a clean slate, and I want to be hopeful.
Yeah, that's.
I think. I very similar thoughts. I think I think it's a smart direction to take Din in. I think the whole Mandalore kind of storyline, like what we've been saying, like it's kind of wrapped up now. Like they're just gonna, probably do what Navarro did and like build a town and like pose the leader, and they'll build it up again, which we don't necessarily have to see right now. So I think it makes a lot of sense that this independent contractor is like, it's like the fancy version of a bounty hunter. And he kind of says that in that conversation he has with Carson. So I'm really happy with like, this is where Din is going to be going, because I don't know, I think that's what I found interesting coming into season 3. Like we got the whole poster that like, here's the Darksaber. Is he going to lead Mandalore? All these kinds of things. But for me, Din's character was never kind of in the running to be the leader of Mandalore. Like that's not his personality. His just character isn't to be in that contention. So I'm glad that they didn't try and push that and like, oh yeah, he is going to be the ruler. And I think it makes sense that like this is where he fits. This is where his character fits.
Mm-hmm. And I think what we've been seeing over the 2 shows now is that Din is building up a really strong base of allies. He's got great relations, obviously, with Mandalore, this rebuilt civilization, or this rebuilding civilization of warriors. He's got great relationship with Boba Fett, who's king of the underworld, and he's building up. And he's building.
Wait a minute. I'm the king of the underworld. What are we talking about here? Wait a minute.
Is it Ben?
Excuse me.
Ben is the founder.
There's one.
I was here first.
You're the emperor, Ben.
You're like pre Vizsla.
Is he post Vizsla? But.
Why did no one respond to that? Doesn't that make sense? Because you like made it.
Fight me!
Why are you getting mad?
Okay. Point is, he's got the Mandalorians. He's got the underworld through Boba Fett. And he's now got to build up his ties with the New Republic. Because as I was saying earlier, this is all driving towards a battle between the New Republic and the Remnant Empire. So Din Djarin is still kind of at the center of this storyline because he's the guy who can bring all of these different factions that otherwise don't really see eye to eye. He's the one who can bring them together. He's still the one sort of at the center of it. So I do think it does make sense to take him out of the Mandalorians specifically, and he can kind of exist a little bit outside of that. But he's got one foot in like all of these different factions, or he's got one toe in all these different factions. So when the time comes, when there is an adversary strong and dangerous enough to require all of them to unify, he's the guy that can do it. And even with the Jedi too, you know, Grogu's kind of, you know, has still got a toe in the Jedi world. He's still using the Force and lifting frogs and everything. And, you know, if need be, they could probably give old Luke Skywalker another call and say, hey, we got a problem and we could use your help on this.
I think maybe originally there was going to be a another character who would have been kind of the representative of the New Republic that would have been maybe even a ranger of the New Republic that would have been there to kind of aid Din and be that kind of thing. It's interesting that now Din seemingly is coming into that. I think Carson Teva is obviously a big part of that, but Din is essentially going to be kind of this liaison between Mandalore and the New Republic, and will probably be a linchpin in, you know, whatever happens there. And in the fact that the New Republic doesn't have a military, is actively destroying their military right now. In the timeline.
And again, that's in the Pershing episode. Like that groundwork is being laid. It's being hinted at.
But Paleon specifically says that a resurgent Mandalore would be more difficult for them. So it is going to cause issues for them now that Mandalore is back on the map.
Who's Paleon again? Is he from Heir to the Empire?
Yeah. Mustache guy.
He's the
mustache guy. That knows it down.
Watson. He's the Watson to Thrawn's Dr. Whatever.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the one that you experience Thrawn kind of through Peleon's eyes, in a sense, because you're not kind of first person in Thrawn, but you kind of are getting Peleon's reactions to Thrawn as Thrawn is doing things throughout the.
Because that's how books work. People have to talk to each other.
You have a perspective. Yeah, so it's Peleon's kind of like your like protagonist but within the Empire.
Is the dumb guy. He's the one to go, wait a second, you let them go. Why did you do that, Thrawn? That was really dumb. And then Thrawn's like, no, you're the dummy. Paleon, here's why I did it. I'm the brilliant guy here.
And he has a mustache.
Yes.
So it's like how I come into actually his presence in the Shadow Council was like how I'm in the podcast. It was like, wait, why did they have this scene? It didn't make sense.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Somebody has to
make sense.
Say it. No, but all Imperials, you know, if they have a mustache, that means they were killed once by Vader and they came back with a mustache. You know, that's why. It's your kill count. It's your Vader kill count. And then when you have the fake nose and the glasses, then you know you'd spend 3 times.
Multiple times, yeah. Get the whole Groucho Marx look going.
Yeah. I'm getting so lost.
that is like a robot chicken. Old robot chicken skit.
Yeah. All right.
Google searches to understand all that.
Yeah. But that about does bring us to the end of the episode. The only other kind of thing, the only other reveal is IG-11 back from the dead to be Marshal of Navarro. That's fun. I like that. That's good.
Gonna say,
good moment.
I'm like anti-IG units, but that's another discussion.
that was very Lord of the Rings-esque, like going back and doing stuff. It's like in the books and in the movie to extent where they go back to Hobbiton, they go back to the Shire.
I'm gonna have to go deep into the Discord and dig up some receipts because I totally called it. Totally. Like after episode 2, I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna bring IG-11 back. He's gonna be the new Marshal of Navarro. It's gonna be great. And I was very excited to see that.
You were right. You were right, Ben.
Look, I don't have that many things where I could say I was right. Okay, so I really appreciate who I am.
When Bo-Katan picked up the Darksaber in the cave, it was hers. She reclaimed it.
Yep.
She is Mandalore.
There you go. I think all three of you have claimed being right on something this season. So well done. A round of applause. You get a round of applause. All right. I think it's time. I think it's time for everybody's favorite segment. You know it.
Oh,
You
Chris,
love it.
don't leave now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
This is the fun
here.
part.
He's
Come
like,
back.
I hate
I'm
this.
still listening.
He's like, I can't do this again because it's again time for Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
All right, Ben.
What have you got for us, Ben?
What have you got for us?
I don't know. I gotta read. I gotta look at them. Like look at my notes and see what's happening. I forgot all about them. So here we go. And actually, not a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode, I think. But so not to get to look. I didn't. Do I have to? I have to. Okay. There was giant red laser doors. Did you see those? Did you notice those?
Thank you.
Notice
What?
those?
Credit.
There
Give it
were?
Dan credit.
They're a direct reference to the Phantom Menace. I don't know if you know
Thank
that. I don't know if you
you.
know that. Just want to
I've
make that
been mad for a
abundantly
week.
clear. I wanted to mention for the record, I'm mentioning the red laser doors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jeez. Okay. That's what I have to do for you people. All right. Just before the red laser doors, we get Grogu, Din Grogu now, I guess is how we call him now. He went from Baby Yoda to Grogu, now Din Grogu. Rescuing Din with Bacta spray. He's spraying Bacta spray on him, which is, I think, a callback to what IG-11 does to Din when he takes his helmet off.
But how does it get to him? How does it actually
It
help
doesn't.
him?
It's just
Like,
Grogu being like, "This is
just
what's
like
going to help
in
you.
the
I'm going to
air."
spray you with this stuff."
It's just like, so
Also,
funny.
okay, biggest disappointment with this episode was the lack of a Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Where's his
so
face? I want to see his beautiful
promised,
face.
I promised at some point, I can't remember if it was
no.
the pre-show or if it was before we were live, that I was gonna take names. This is the thing. I'm gonna take names over.
Okay.
Okay. Listen, I understand that Pedro Pascal is like a very sought after actor now who's in multiple hit shows and he's really famous and stuff. But like, dude, like you're Din Djarin, you're the Mandalorian, like just delay the show a month until you can film it. Like what the heck? Like that's not right. Like that's just saying like, oh, like we just put the suit guys in there because we can't make the shooting week for the finale. Like that is weak sauce. This is the #1 show. Like,
And it's
what
weird
the heck?
because I mentioned this. So shout out to our good buddy Jeff White. We were on his show, and I mentioned this something. And I'll mention it again.
Hype.
Yeah, so one of the actors that was the actor that's in the Plaisir 15 episode, they confirmed that Pedro was on set for at
How did we
least
talk about this?
1 or 2 scenes of that scene. So like it's not
Oh.
this is not another situation where
Shoot the
you
scene
know, it
where his
was
helmet
Brendan
comes
and
off
Latif.
when he's
So,
on set.
Okay, but here's the question: where does that scene come in this season? Because in season 2, it's very evident why it needs to come off. There's not a moment in this season where I'm going, I need to see Pedro's face. I'd like to. I like
thought it was-
Pedro's face, but I don't necessarily need it.
He's got to
in
eat.
this
The dude's
season.
got to eat.
Well,
I feel like we
think-
should have got it then.
You know what?
When he,
you know
when
what?
he ate.
Here's the thing. Here's the suggestion. Here's something they could have done. We're completely derailing my connection corner here, but here we go.
I forgot that's what we were at.
What I
That's
would
my
have
bad.
done, even if you don't have Pedro, you have a scene where you just if you don't have Pedro, you just shoot him from the neck down. Just just see the helmet just sitting there next to him, showing that he's a little more lax with the rules. He's just taking off the helmet. And he's taking it off in front of Grogu, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care much anymore. I would love that.
gonna answer my own question because I was saying, where's the helmet? Where should the helmet have come off? It should have been off in the last shot.
Yeah,
of him sitting outside the cabin.
Oh, true. That's
that's
such a great point.
That's
Oh,
the
damn
one
it.
spot. Yeah, that's the one spot where I'm like, that's probably where it should have been off this season. Just to
that would
emphasize
I would have given the episode a 10 out of 10. Spoiler it, I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, but yeah, I would have given it a 10 out of 10 if that was the case. Because I was really wanting to see Pedro's face. I know I saw a lot of it in The Last of Us, but I want to see it in this show.
I will say
Next
when
season.
they get around to this movie, man's face better be in it. He's got to be more. They got to pay him the big bucks to be there for the movie. Just get him to be there most of the time. Let Brendan do a couple of walking scenes, but put him in.
I kept waiting for like Moff Gideon to like knock it off or like pull it off.
I thought that was going to happen.
Yeah,
that too.
Oh well. Moving on. Tangents. No more tangents. No one else speak or say anything. I have more stuff to say. Because I have important stuff to do, like the mention of R5's rocket boosters.
Yes.
We got them back finally.
Love droid rocket boosters.
Yeah. So we all
They're
had all
iconic.
this.
What's the connection there?
Well, I mean, we saw them, of course, in the prequels. R2 had them in episode 2, in episode 3.
So your connection is a droid has a thing that they usually have.
Look. Wow, you're just roasting me in this thing. Come on. Jeez. I don't mention the stuff that you want me to mention, and then I get roasted for that. And then I mention other stuff, and you're like, no.
How dare you?
That's really what you're going to bring? This connection?
I will say, like, there is
Attack of the Clones, like Attack of the Clones, R2 rockets. We're talking here.
Yeah, and there is a segment.
Right.
There's a segment of fans that don't.
Every single droid in the galaxy has rocket boosters? Because I'm gonna have to fight you on that one.
Well, there's a segment of fans that don't like the R2 rocket boosters because they're like,
wrong.
why didn't he use them in the originals? I've been arguing with those people for
there's
almost
literally
a
no
decade.
opportunity there's literally no opportunity in the original trilogy where he could have used the boosters. So like it doesn't make a lot of sense. So anywho, he's got boosters and
great connection.
And they actually were used really very well, very very critical time.
I just saw the life drain from your eyes. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's cool.
Yeah, this is the suffering I have to deal with in this stupid segment.
We're so hot and cold with this connection corner. We love it and hate it somehow.
So I noticed watching back the episode a couple of times, I noticed in the light cruiser, because I'm like, oh, this light cruiser. No, this is the light cruiser. This is the light cruiser from season 2. They fixed the door. Remember how the dark troopers punched in the door and they made a big dent in it? They fixed the door. The Mandalorians fixed the door.
That's nice.
So good for them.
Good.
Like
A plus to the Carpenters.
Yeah.
The Carpenters smoothed out a metal door. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Those good old Carpenter Mandalorian.
Yeah.
The stun batons that the troopers have when they're fighting Mandalorian. I don't know what's funny about this, but I'm gonna keep going.
Everything's funny about it.
Yeah. The stun batons, they felt a lot like they're kind of the long batons and they have the handle that's kind of jutting out. Feels a lot like what Finn and FN 2199 uses in the sequels. Pretty cool. We get knee rockets. The return of knee rockets. Casca Reeves does that sick slide and ends up using her knee rocket just like Boba Fett. Really cool. I love that that's just been an Easter egg for years and years and years. Just like, oh, there's rockets on their knees. That's pretty cool. That'll never be seen on screen.
If you're walking and you accidentally let it off.
That's what the best cars for. That's why they can't take their helmets off because
they specifically have to bend their knees. Like Boba, lifts his leg and bends his knee to trigger the things. That means if you just bend down to tie your shoe, you could kill someone.
That's
bend the knee, Jon Snow.
There's no shoelaces in Star Wars. That's
why everyone has Velcro.
True. That's why, because of the knee rocket issue. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, except for the sneaker in the asteroid field, I think that has shoelaces on it.
Maybe.
Maybe. What?
Okay, so this is another ubiquitous story.
Connections in the
I
corner.
get that. I
In the
thought
year
it was
19
potatoes.
In the year, I thought there was a shoe too.
Isn't there
There's
a sink?
there's a shoe in Return of the Jedi in the battle and Return of the Jedi. Someone literally just found it. Literally after
Now.
like 40 something years.
Wow.
There you go.
4K. That's the 4K upscaling for you.
I think his name is EC Henry on YouTube. He's a great YouTuber and he just did a whole video on it. It's great.
Love it.
Connections.
Nee.
We still are in the corner.
Yeah, we're still here. We got two more to go. I'll never get finished with this if we keep going with these tangents. Okay, so everybody, shut up. Grogu is holding back the fire, and things actually seem like a direct reference to season 1, where he's holding back fire, like straight up, pretty much the same shot, back of his head, just fire all around. Really cool.
I thought that was referencing The Incredibles when Violet uses the force field.
I would love it. I would love it if Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on stage was like, "Yes, we wanted to reference the classic film The Incredibles in the season 3 finale."
It was a very old classic film, vintage antique CGI.
Antique.
Beginning of the CGI verse.
Yep, and finally, in the one of the final scenes, going back to the Adelphi bar, we get more director cameos. Previously, we got Deborah Chow and Rick Kamuya. This time, we got Dave Filoni returning with Peter Ramsey and Lee Isaac Chung. Over to the side around that Rodian. Because I was like, I looked at all of like those people look familiar, and I had to look it up. I'm like, yeah, it's the two directors. So they were both directors this season, and so every director gets a cameo. It's just a tradition in The Mandalorian. So
They should have just brought Pedro Pascal into the bar on his day off and just put him there. We would have seen his face.
But he's playing a different character.
Yeah, playing a different character. Yeah,
amazing.
Oh man.
Well, Ben, thank you again for another great 8 weeks of connections and making us laugh with the lengths you will go to connect one thing to
I don't
another.
have to do this next week.
Yeah, but you know what? You are gonna have to do I think 12 connection corners all in 1 week for Star Wars Vision. So just be ready.
Yep.
Just be ready.
Oh my god.
You're not the boss of me, okay? I'm sorry.
I mean,
You
Ben
are-
is the emperor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm Emperor of the Underworld.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ben's Bo-Katan. Dom, you're the armorer. Chris, who the hell are you? What's Chris?
Africa. The armorer she sings Africa. That's all I know about her.
Oh, yeah. Sure,
Wait, I thought we were the Bad Batch. Now we're Mandalorians. What is
Yeah,
this?
actually,
We got a Bad
true.
Batch
It makes
version
more.
too.
Yeah. I got to think of that one. I'll ponder that one. Continue.
Come back to that. Yeah. All right. That brings us to the end of another iconic, delicious, incredible edition of Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Should we make Ben do Ben's Connection Corner for Young Jedi Adventures? Should we get
No.
him?
Oh, yeah.
No.
There's gonna be so many connections in that.
No.
Even if we don't break down every episode on the show, we'll just have Ben do a Connection Corner.
Yeah, that's the
every
only thing that I care about is the connections.
Amazing. All right, let's hit the super chats. Starting with Joel. Says Joel, well, this season was fun. I have to say, I felt a lot of the moments felt rushed and honestly kinda hollow. So many scripts felt like a first draft, and a lot of the character work and conflict were missing. Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
This is very
Yeah, that's
suspicious.
almost
Let
like
me
they were
see
working on
me and
something
Ben's
else.
eyes.
Yeah, the comment is so big. All you can see are Ben and Hannah's eyes. Oh man, worth it.
Well, this is too
Worth
much
it for
fun.
that alone. Next up, this one just covers your chins. This one again from Joel says, also not Mando, but Star Wars movie news update. The Writers Guild has officially voted to strike, and that could affect movie future productions. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. Although pre-production is expected to begin on the first film, the New Jedi Order 1, in August. So we'll see where we wind up. Joel also says this season needed less fighting, more talking, and Bo in the armor needed some deep conversations about differences in Mando ideology and the helmet rule.
No helmet, no play. Wait, is that an Australian thing? Is that
What? Yeah, I was
you
gonna
got
say
no
I don't know what that means.
no hat, no play? Is that that might be an Australianism. Oh,
No
okay,
clue.
don't worry.
What? No, now we need to know what that
yeah.
means. Now's the time
You
for
need to-
Hannah's
Okay,
Connection
so-
Corner.
In every Australian school ever, there's a very, very strict rule: no hat, no play. Very straightforward. Like, you can kind of infer what it means. If you're not wearing a hat outside, you're not allowed to play outside. So
I've
that's what I was
never heard
referencing.
Makes
Maybe
sense.
it's
sense,
because we might have a high UV here or something.
No,
Maybe
people
that's
just are dumb here, and they just get skin cancer every 10 years.
Yeah.
Jeez. But yeah, no hat, no play. Oh my,
Yeah.
that's so true, Jonathan. Ben, you can't play outside. 'cause you
Yeah,
don't
where's
have
your
a
hat, Ben?
Yeah.
Do you wear caps,
Excuse me?
Ben? This gets
Where's
so
top
topic.
hats?
Yeah. Yeah. Where's top hat?
Oh man.
Sometimes.
All right. Next one from Joel says, also, I feel Din went along with a lot of stuff instead of asking questions. Like, he just accepts Bo taking off her helmet because the armorer said so. Yeah, but he also like accepted it before. Like, I don't know. I feel like Din Djarin was more open-minded than we give him credit for. He's very strict in his own beliefs, but you know, he was willing to work with Bo-Katan going all the way back to the season 2 finale. So I feel like he's more open-minded than we give him credit for. And finally, from Joel, season 3 wanted to tell a larger macro story about Mandalorians, but I don't think that John has the skill set as a writer to do so. Yeah, yes and no.
Joel is reckoning John tonight.
Yeah,
I reckon.
Yeah, I think
I
this
kind
is
of
what.
agree.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. All that this season, it didn't pay off the tension between the two groups enough. Yes, there was one fight. There was one time they scrapped, but there needed to be more of that through the season, and there just wasn't. So it comes up a little bit short there. I do agree. Oh, got a new channel member. Look at that.
OJD
Can join.
He's a convert. He's a convert from the Raeside.
Oh, there we go. Welcome.
There you go.
And Sin City Sith dropping a super chat just cuz. Love it. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you, Joel. Love it. All right. It's that time. Let's go around the table one last time, give some final thoughts and scores out of 10 for the finale. Ben, start us off. Final thoughts, score out of 10 for the return.
Yeah, this has been a hell of a season, a hell of an episode. And I have enjoyed a lot of it. I'm not saying I've loved every single minute of it, but I think it was a very strong season and really leveled up the Mandalorian in so many ways. In especially in just the scope and of course the visual effects and the visuals in general have been stellar. This episode was just kind of the tip of the iceberg, or just the culmination of that, in showing us what this show is capable of and really just going all out. And I loved how the scope was kind of on display here in regards to having this big Star Wars movie style, Star Wars third movie in a season 3 style of a three-pronged attack in this thing, and giving us so many great moments that I think were I think will live on as great. And I'm very curious to see where this goes, obviously, because as we've talked about, very much felt like an ending. Was very much, I think, designed as an ending, but also could be a new beginning. And as much as I have mixed feelings about it, I think this episode is after season 1 and especially season 2 having these like, oh my god, big giant reveals at the end. I think it was nice just kind of go back and go like, oh, this was heartwarming, this was satisfying. And that's what I felt in this. There was so many moments of just between Din and Grogu that were so heartwarming and deepening their relationship, and I think was just great, and really is the heart and soul of the show, regardless of what you think of where the show needs to be or what characters need to be in the spotlight. They are the heart of the show. I think they always will be, and that they were the heart of this episode. So I'm rambling. I want to keep talking about this show because I'm not ready to be done with it. You know, I don't care if I love or hate an episode. It's always fun to discuss it, and I will say, at least for now, that this episode is. Where do I want to go with this? I actually don't know what score I want to give it. I think I'm going to give it a 9.
Wow.
I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I'm docking a point for a lack of Pedro. Okay.
Tentative 9 out of 10 for Ben. Hannah, what about you? Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Yeah, I really loved the action in this episode. It felt very Star Wars. I loved how much Din was in it, and his choreography of his stunts was just flawless. And it's just really just classic moments where you're just like, oh, that's cool. Like I just kept saying that this episode. You know, the crashing the massive light cruiser, doing that, and the aerial battle. The Praetorian guards, like everything, all the elements of this finale was just really, really sweet. I think there was something missing in it for me, maybe a bit more of a punch of something. I don't know what that would be if someone was to die or something, but I think I was just looking for maybe a longer episode, more time of what we were doing here of the finale. I'm probably going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. That might be my highest for the season.
Wow.
We'll see.
Go back.
We'll see.
We'll check the scores next week for both.
Damn,
Mando
that's like my favorite part.
for Mando season 2 or Mando season 3 and Bad Batch season 2. So we'll see. We'll see if that was the highest score from Hannah. But 8.5. Chris, over to you. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
I did like this episode as an episode again. As a finale for a season, I'm confused. But like as an episode within itself, it was really great. And for all the reasons that I've talked about. So I do feel like this is the weakest season of The Mandalorian. I feel like this season was less focused than the first 2 seasons. I feel like emotionally, there was more emotional poignancy to the finales of the last 2 seasons than there was to this one. And so I don't think it fell off too far. Like it still was a very entertaining season, and there were some really great episodes and some really great moments, and a lot of them were in this last episode. But I wouldn't say that they've, as a whole, outdone themselves. I would say there's certain elements that they've pushed things further. Like the battle, this was definitely the best battle episode we've ever seen. The battle was at a scale that we haven't seen in the show before, and that is very commendable. So I'm very glad that they did that, and I thought they pulled it off really well. So that was great. But yeah, they're just writing of this season, the pacing of this season, just how everything ties together, and then how it makes sense as a third season to a show that has multiple seasons. It was not executed well. And not executed as good as it could have been. So 9 out of 10 on this finale. It was missing that one thing to really make it a good bridge to the future. It didn't feel like a bridge. It felt like an ending point, and that felt weird. So that's why it's not a 10 out of 10. But everything else was great about the episode.
Nice. All right. 9 out of 10 from Chris. I'm going to give it a 9.5, which is what I gave last week's episode as well. I think these last 2 episodes, as I said earlier, did a lot to right the ship for this season. I agree that this season as a whole, I think is a weaker season compared to seasons 1 and 2. But I think this is the best finale we've gotten. I actually think The Mandalorian is kind of the exception to the rule when it comes to Star Wars doing great finales. I think Andor's had a great finale. Kenobi had a great finale. Bad Batch has had great finales. Clone Wars always had great finales. Rebels always had great finales. The season 1 and 2 finales of Mandalorian didn't hit with the same punch that those other shows did. This finale did. This finale did for me, at least. So I think this season as a whole, I would say, yeah, it's probably the 3rd best season of The Mandalorian. But this, I think, is the best finale and up there for one of the best episodes. Again, these last 2 really hit for me. Part of that may have been watching last week's episode at Celebration, getting to see it with that Celebration audience, with an audience of people who are just excited to be there. But I do think these ones came through with the action, with the storylines. I like that it felt like a little bit more of a wrap up than I was expecting. I was expecting a big tease for what's to come, and instead I like that we got kind of a little tease for what's to come with the scene with Carson Teva in the director's bar, instead of a Thrawn cameo or a Sabine cameo or an Ahsoka cameo. I like that this season sort of focused in on the Mandalorians and didn't try and up the ante from season 2 by going heavy on the cameos. I sort of think about the cameos. It's like Zeb, Paleon, and Hux, and that's really it. And none of them felt overpowering. They felt right. They felt in the moment. But they didn't. It allowed the season to stay focused on what it was trying to do. I just don't know if the season succeeded in what it was trying to do, even with that added focus. So strong finale, capping off a hit and miss season, I think is how I would put it. So 9.5 from me. All right. I think one last super chat from Sin City Sith, saying the finale could have been a series finale, season finale, or a jump off to new seasons and a new show with Bo.
Book of Bo-Katan.
Could have been all of those things. Yeah. A Bo-Katan show. I think a Bo-Katan show would be a lot of fun. Yeah. I think they should consider.
I feel like this season was the Bo-Katan show.
Yeah.
Catching up with the Kreeses.
Oh god.
Now that's what we need.
Keeping up with the cries.
Oh god.
Is it, do you say Kreese or cries?
It's Kreese.
Kreese.
I say cries.
I think it's said both ways.
It's Kreze. So
Kreze.
It's Kreze. Another super chat from Orange Juice Dude saying rock on. Thank you very
a lot
much.
of orange
rock
juice.
On, dude.
That is, we could buy so much orange juice with that.
Oh, I'm
Wow.
so excited. My orange juice is out. There's none.
Orange juice party next Celebration. Is that what we're gonna do?
I mean, honestly, just the way I felt coming back from Celebration and the amount of orange juice I've drank in the last week, I feel like that's the most of anything I've consumed.
Vitamin C up.
I was gonna say, I think we should just make next Celebration orange juice party, regardless.
I'm surprised you haven't turned orange.
Yeah, right. It's been fun. All right, scores from the
chat.
An
Orange Grove in Orange County.
Scores from the chat.
I am in Orange County right now.
Shut up and let me get to the scores. Shut up and let me get to this. Like, nobody. Why are we talking about oranges?
Because
OJ
orange juice.
Yeah, but he didn't say to get the super chat you have to talk about oranges.
He just said rock on, and there's nothing else to go off of other than the orange.
I really like a nice glass of
High five.
orange juice after I've eaten a lot of Skittles and Oreos.
And I like how the orange is so perfectly in the
I
circle
know.
of
How
the
did you
profile.
accomplish
Oh,
this?
it's so satisfying. I just realized
That's incredible. That's incredible.
that. Oh man.
Going back to London.
This is YouTube. YouTube and oranges have a special relationship.
Back to London. John Awakens says the finale gets 7 out of 10. Season as a whole gets 6 out of 10. Matthew Hardy gives it an 8 out of 10. Sin City Sith gives it a 5.
Out of 5.
Out of something. Jonathan Vafiatis gives it 9 Oreos out of 10 Skittles.
Accurate. Love it.
A Timothy Brock says the episode gets an all right and the season gets a meh. George Rogers says the finale gets an 8 out of 10 and the season gets an 8 out of 10. And the legend that is Orange Juice Dude gives it a 69 out of 70 for for finale. Nice.
Perfection.
Finale.
There we go. All right. I think that's it. I don't know. I think we've covered enough. Had a great conversation about the finale and oranges for some reason. And with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right, that'll do it for this. What were
I was gonna say this is what OJD meant by rock on.
Yes.
This
yes.
song.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, man.
Someone's having some premonitions of the ending of our show. This is the ending of our show. Thank you everybody so much for watching on YouTube. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. We want to give a huge shout out to our channel members and our new channel members who joined this week. And also to everybody who left the super chat. And if you are listening on a podcast app, please subscribe and review as well. And you can follow us on social media at the SWU. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure. It was great fun to be back with all of you. Like I said, I'm not glad to be back from Celebration. I wish I was still at Celebration, but it is great fun to be back on the show with you guys. So can't wait to be back next week and to break down some of that news finally, talk about what went on. But great time this week. One last score from the chat. Chosen Nightwolf says 8 out of 10 for the season 3 finale and 9 out of 10 for the series finale so far. So kind of viewing it a little bit 2 different ways. I like it. It's good stuff. But great fun. Go look at my Instagram for all my pictures from Celebration, Dominic J25, and to watch me celebrate and or cry over the NHL playoffs as they play out over the next few weeks. And see y'all next week.
All right, and of course you can follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. Ben, thank you for hosting as well.
Well, and thanks so much, guys, for listening. And it's been fun watching The Mandalorian and discussing The Mandalorian. And I also have an announcement to make. So The Mandalorian comes back, I will be following the way and wearing my helmet until we return to Mandalore. So this is the way.
It's the way your nose is smushing right up against it that just makes it so. Is that what Pedro's is? So like he's smushed up. That's amazing.
I imagine it's something similar to this. Yeah.
Oh my god!
And I like just a little bit of hair sticking out on top of the helmet.
But see, look, if I go up, I can't see.
Okay, here. Wow, this is quite a practical difficulty. That's so good. Oh my lord!
Get used to it. This is the way.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't fit right.
Okay, this is just as good.
I don't know how
props.
it's supposed to fit. It doesn't fit. Not like that.
This is just as good as the props for the season premiere. Just as good.
Yeah.
Just as good as what the kids wearing at the beginning of the season.
Oh my god! Yeah,
Production quality.
Ragnarok or whatever he's called.
It's just this is all I got to work with. Sorry.
Everyone who's just listening, just go look at the video and skip ahead to the very end just to see Ben's face smushed into this Mando helmet that's like too wide and too long at the bottom but not tall enough at the top. It's wild.
Oh man.
At Ben Hart with no E is where you can follow the way with Ben on social media. Hannah, thank you so much for hosting as well. Thank you so much for crashing our show.
Yeah. Mean. It's a pleasure to be back. It's good times, good chats, good discussions, and good laughs. Can't wait for another week. I can't wait for next week until we talk about what is our overall cumulative scores of the season. It's like my favorite part. See if it's any drastically different to what we expect. No, it's gonna be good. When are we gonna talk about Star Wars news?
Next week.
Oh yeah, true.
Next week and forever after.
I will say I ran the scores for the Bad Batch. There's a few surprises in there.
Oh, really?
I think I might be one of the highest rating people for that.
There's some surprises. That's all.
I'm going for that top prize. I
excited.
think it's likely I rated it the highest.
Yeah.
I really like that season.
Yeah. Let's tune in next week to find out. I also have to go back and listen to last week's show to find out which scores you guys gave the episodes.
Don't
even remember.
Don't trouble yourself. Just watch the end.
Yeah, true. Actually,
you might quit if you watch the whole show.
Good to know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Don't watch last week's episode. The whole all I can tell you is that frequently did we say, "Oh, we hope Dom doesn't see this episode."
That is not the way.
Well, now I have to see it. Now I have to know.
Let's just say we broke a record for super chats, and there's a good reason why.
Oh God,
There was.
I don't even know what that. I can't even.
There was a lot happening.
Cannot even figure out what that means.
It was. We might have maybe done the show in the opposite order you're supposed to. Anyway.
Yeah.
This is the way.
Okay.
Yeah. At the Hannah side. No, wait, that's not. At the Hannah side is where you can follow Hannah on social media. No, I don't think that's how you can. You better have that too, so these people can redirect.
I know. I just have you genuinely forgotten my actual username?
No, I know it's
Okay.
It's at the Raeside. Okay. Or is it the Raeside? Or is it at Raeside?
No, it's just the at the Raeside.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But then I saw that and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I've spooked you. I'm very.
I'm like, wait a minute. It says something different on the screen. That's what I said at the beginning of the show. So at the Raeside, RAE. There you go. I spelled it. At the RAE side is where you can follow Hannah on social media. What else do we have to plug?
Spell it
Discord.
again. You only spelled it twice. Spell it again.
At the HANNAH side.
Oh my God! What's happening on the Discord?
Nobody's ever gonna find anything ever from this outro.
Join the SW Network Discord.
SWU.
There's
3 U's. There's a W and a U.
Excuse me. Please join the SWU Discord.
There you go. Perfect.
The SWU Network Discord is where you can talk to us throughout the week, well, most of us, and where you can follow the way with Ben. And we got game night.
This is the way.
I low-key forgot Ben was just sitting there in his mask.
That's Pedro Pascal over there.
That's Pedro.
See, this is how we can get Pedro on the podcast. We just put someone in a helmet, and it's like it's Pedro Pascal.
This is the way.
I mean, that's canon. And we got game night coming up. Fall Guys. It's super fun. It's super chaotic. Definitely join us. The link to the Discord is in the description of this YouTube video, as well as in the notes of the podcast, any app that you are listening to. All right, that's it. We're out of here. Until next week, for Ben and Hannah and Dominic, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
Spell it again. Spell it again, Chris. Spell it.
HANNAH. And by the way, I spelled it backwards that time. Did you see how smart I am?
Aha!
This is the way.
I've spoken.
It's a wrap.